one night, in the middle of the night, I ended up in the ER with some severe abdominal pain. And it was a long night. I was in a lot of pain. They weren't sure what was going on. My abdomen was filling up, apparently, with blood, which we realized as I was getting an ultrasound. And during that ultrasound, the ER doctor, burst into the room and said, "Mrs. Gowdy, you're pregnant. I think you're having an ectopic pregnancy." So in one sentence, in the middle of the night, in a dark hospital room, I hear, "You're pregnant and you're going to lose your baby and possibly your own life."
Give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all this world, but give me Jesus.
Christ is the visible image of the invisible God. He existed before anything was created and is supreme over all creation. For through him, God created everything in the heavenly realms and on earth. He made the things we can see and the things we can't see, such as thrones, kingdoms, rulers, and authorities in the unseen world. Everything was created through him and for him. Jesus existed before anything else, and he holds all creation together. Christ is also the head of the church, which is his body. He is the beginning, supreme over all who rise from the dead. So he is first in everything. For God, in all his fullness, was pleased to live in Jesus. Welcome back, listening friends, to episode 3 in our Jesus Stories series. And again, thanks to Fernando Ortega and that beautiful version of the old hymn, Give Me Jesus. With me this week, instead of going outside, I went and found my friends in the building. John Dale on our team, Jamie, Sue, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Good to have you guys here today. We're just telling Jesus stories, wanting to encourage and inspire and maybe invite people into some new ways of, oh gosh, I would love to hear from God, or I'd love a note like that, or so there's a variety of stories over the course of weeks. I think somebody's story is going to stand out for each person listening and going, oh, that's me. That's for me. I need that from God. So I know you well, and I know your rich life with God. However, as you're driving in this morning, knowing, oh gosh, I'm going to be in this podcast studio telling Jesus stories, what are you feeling?
Exactly that. Oh gosh, what am I going to say? Should I have prepared more? Do I need to figure something out?
Right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm literally driving in going, I have no Jesus stories.
Right.
Do I even know Jesus?
Yeah.
I sat down at the table 10 minutes ago, John, and you kind of asked what stories are you going to share, and I literally was a blank slate, which is why I went last and let Sue and Jamie go first.
Yes.
Right.
Isn't it crazy?
Yes.
Like, what is that? Because when the pressure isn't on,
Right.
and you realize Jesus and I have a long story together.
Right.
We have a lot of miles
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of stories to tell, but somehow that all, just, is it the pressure? Is it the performance?
Yeah, I think so.
It's this big giant microphone.
Is it the big
Right.
fuzzy thing in front of your face here? Yeah.
But Jamie, I
exactly.
really loved what you said earlier.
Yeah. So I chose to bring that pressure to God and say, do I need more stories? Do you want to say more things? And I just felt him chuckle and say, where am I not in your story right now? What places in your life am I not there? I was like, okay, right, yes.
Meaning
you're-
not
you're-
where do you feel abandoned,
right.
but rather, Jamie,
Like I'm everywhere. Just pick something, because there's nowhere in your life that I'm not there.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Beautiful.
I was saying in the first episode, I love hanging around with Jesus people.
Mm.
I just love it. They're my favorite people. And just coffee, dinner, conversation, walks. And the conversation is usually something like, so how are you? But what it means is,
What's God up to?
yeah,
Yeah.
what's God up to?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's right there. It doesn't take a lot to find Jesus in our lives
Mhm.
when we have the heart space to do it, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so we're going to tell some more stories this week. And I want to start actually with an exercise that we did as a staff because it triggered something for you, John. Let's see, back in the fall of last year, we had a vision kind of day together, right? And one of the exercises we did was tapping into, how are you? 2020 has been rough, global trauma, etc. How's your concentration? How's your mental focus? How's your hope? And we kind of did a variety of things. And it was pretty revealing of how tapped out we were. And I think the big revelation question was when I asked about our reserves, right? And there was a pretty honest unanimity of not much left in the tank. Okay, so it was early this year that I circled back around, this time just by email, just kind of pinged the staff and said, okay, hey, let's do that again. It's been 3 months. How are you now? And here's some updated questions, that sort of thing. And John, that began a journey for you with Jesus.
Yeah. So the part that John didn't know at the time was that literally the night before, I had sat down with Amy, my wife, and had a conversation where I basically confessed to her that I was not doing well, that I had had several months where I'd just been struggling emotionally. And she had strongly encouraged me that I should talk to a few of my close friends and to you, John. And the interesting thing was just telling her how I was doing, there was some measure of relief in that.
Yes.
And so I found myself the next morning, like really questioning whether I was actually getting better and did I need to talk to anyone? And certainly I didn't want to tell John, like, oh, hey, I'm the guy, I'm the man down on the team right now. And so I walk into my office literally the next morning and I open up my laptop and I have an email from you saying, how are you doing?
Yeah. Hey,
and
everybody.
It was literally like, it was as if God was there saying to me, tell John the truth.
Okay.
And I did. And I think you had asked us, hey, scale of 1 to 10. You were looking for like a number reply, and I wrote you a short novel. And that was the beginning of a journey of several months where I spent time with a counselor, and God has used it in remarkable ways. Like I am well now. And there were things that were, decades in the making that God wanted to address. And he, in part, used a simple question from you in an email to speak to me.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So how many times has a text, an email, a voicemail, right, triggered something in your life from Jesus, right? That just
so many.
Yeah, right? Hundreds in that.
Yeah.
We were talking with the winners last week about just the beauty of bringing your kids into this too, and Jesus showing up for your kids, seeing Jesus coming for your kids as well. Jamie, you've got a sweet story.
Yeah, I think I think you have to have eyes to see where Jesus is showing up. And if you don't, you'll miss it. You'll miss that email was from God, checking in on your heart. So I've been trying to be more aware of the places where he is showing up that I might maybe miss. I had a really sweet moment a couple weeks ago. My son, who's really into soccer, he's 9 years old, had a soccer game that evening, and it threw our evening off a little bit. It was later, so dinner was later, homework was later, and getting to bed was later. So I was preparing for bed, brushing my teeth, that kind of stuff, while my husband Tyler was putting Sky to bed, laying down with him, tucking him in, trying to wind him down for the night. And I overhear Sky start asking Tyler questions about the soccer game. And my husband was also a soccer guy growing up, so he has the capacity to field these questions in a way that I do not. and I heard Sky say, like, "Dad, did you see when this happened? I did this, but I'm wondering if maybe I should have done this instead." And Tyler just entering into that story, not saying, "No, we're not going to talk about that now, it's bedtime." But no, like, "Oh yeah, when this happens, here's what I would do." And just fathering him. So I overhear this conversation, and then I hear Jesus say, "I'm right there. I'm in that room. I'm parenting Sky. I'm parenting him through Tyler's fathering." It was just a sweet moment that could have really just been blown off as life and our family life. And I loved that Jesus just kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Listen in there, because I'm there right now." It was so sweet.
Okay, confession. The book on parenting that I want to write is the book I can never write. And it's the book on parenting adult children. And the reason is you can't tell those stories. Like, those aren't my stories to tell.
Right.
And you can tell the soccer stories, and you can tell the Lego stories, and you can tell kind of like this, the young years feel like that's fairly safe material. But as your children become, grown-ups and adults in their own right, and their worlds and their lives, and I don't personally feel the permission to tell those stories. But as you're talking about Jesus saying, "I'm right there." Okay, so here's the confession. I woke up really early this morning, anxious about a set of decisions that one of our married children are going through right now. So all three sons are married. They've all got worlds, careers, And one couple is in the midst of some decisions that I don't agree with. But it's none of my business, frankly. Like, they have every right in the world to be making those decisions. I could be dead wrong, is the truth of it. But anyway, I woke up super anxious. And it took me a while to settle into prayer. It took me a while to begin to find God in it. And like, so Jamie, just to hear you say, like, Jesus, that's literally what he said this morning is, "I'm in this. I'm in this. I am with them. You don't see me right now because you don't trust me with them." And I'm like, "Yeah, oh yeah, totally busted. Yep, don't trust you with this. Therefore, I don't see you in it." Turn my heart towards him a little bit this morning. And this isn't a dramatic recovery. I'm about 50% there. But even 50% got me to, it's that I don't see you in it because I'm not looking for you in it. I'm already assuming you're not in it, right? And yeah, so thank you for that. And Subi, you've got a pretty big Jesus story going on in your life these days.
I do.
How do we even get into that story? How do we tell it?
I think it's important at least to start thinking of the people listening of, this has been a very long season. I don't know, years and years of years.
A lifelong story, practically.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like moments of not even asking for it anymore because I couldn't handle feeling like God's not answering me.
Yeah.
And
The singleness,
Yeah.
the
Yep.
loneliness.
The song that you're playing, when I am alone,
Yeah.
and so many years of being alone and feeling like it's all up to me. And I think in this last year and a half with COVID and everything and caring for my mom and it all feeling totally up to me, I was just worn out. Like I was at that place of, I don't know, I'm done. I'm tired trying to get out of doing
Yep.
stuff and like not loving where I'm living. I don't know. It felt pretty hopeless and a little despair seeping in. But I felt Jesus asked me this past summer very kindly, very gently, who do you want to trust? And he's like, you can trust yourself or you can trust me. And because I feel like in what I got trapped into doing is making the agreement it was all up to me. My future, my mom living, period.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
and I just finally said, okay, I'll trust you, and put my house up for sale. Sold in one weekend. Like it just like something broke off. Like when I let go of the control, when I finally just was like, okay, I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I'm going to trust you. Sold my house. And then randomly, someone that I had kind of had a little secret crush on, God put me on his heart. And he is a widower that his wife had passed, I don't know, year and a half or so ago at that point. And it's been crazy good. I don't know. Yeah. So I know it's such a great story. But Mel Burton's birthday party, he had contacted them and told the story of how God changed his heart because he was not going to marry again. He was happy with loving his wife, and she's in the kingdom. He's just waiting to join her.
Yeah.
And trying to live life in the meanwhile. And then change of heart happened in one evening. I don't know how much to go into.
He's got a
but
Jesus story
yes,
to tell.
he does.
Yes,
Like
he does.
Where
he
God
does.
comes to him.
Right.
Yeah, beautiful freedom of heart.
Yeah.
And he puts
Released
you
him. Me specifically.
on his heart.
Yes. And then I was invited to Mel's birthday party and he was going to be there. I was leaving the restaurant and, let me walk you to your car. And then he told me that he'd like to tell me a story, basically, of how God put me on his heart. And so the next night we went to dinner. He told me everything, and it's we're getting married.
Oh my goodness. What's that on your finger?
Yeah, I know. It's
right?
beauty. Yes.
Big rock.
Oh my gosh. And honestly, I just feel like the point of this is truly in the years of feeling unseen, even by God,
Yes.
where are you in my story? Do I not matter? That is the best part of this story is, yeah, I have a lovely, good, godly man, but I have Jesus. He saw all of that. And he's like, I don't know, just by one, why did I not do it sooner? I don't know, but God's timing. But
yes.
But so grateful that I just feel so seen by Jesus, and he gets it. This is his story.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, and
not just in the romance, but in all that went on before.
Yeah, and I have space even in my heart for all the things that I still have to do for my mom, and all of that is still there. Nothing's changed on that level, but I have the space for it now that I didn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty great.
It's a really good Jesus story.
It's wild.
I know.
It is.
And so many more details, but that's okay for now. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Jamie, You were talking about, before we were getting started, you were talking about a trauma story that you wanted to share and how Jesus was in it
Yeah.
or came afterwards or
Changed the story for sure. Yeah, he's definitely in the daily stuff, and then he's also in the major stuff. So that would be this story. My husband and I were newlyweds, had not been married long, and were not planning to have children for a couple years, as that was our plan. And one night, in the middle of the night, I ended up in the ER with some severe abdominal pain. And it was a long night. I was in a lot of pain. They weren't sure what was going on. My abdomen was filling up, apparently, with blood, which we realized as I was getting an ultrasound. And during that ultrasound, the ER doctor, burst into the room and said, "Mrs. Gowdy, you're pregnant. I think you're having an ectopic pregnancy." So, in one sentence, in the middle of the night, in a dark hospital room, I hear, "You're pregnant and you're going to lose your baby and
Jamie.
possibly your own life." So it was filled with a lot of chaos because at that point, there's lots of people running in and out of the room, prepping me for surgery. My husband is probably just deer in the headlights. What's going on? I was, of course, filled with a lot of fear, a lot of pain, and a lot of questions. I wasn't ready to be a mom, and then I'm not ready to have lost a baby all in one sitting. They took me into surgery. As it turns out, it wasn't an ectopic pregnancy. It was a ruptured cyst on my ovary that had ruptured in a way that was causing internal bleeding. So they were able to fix that. But even then, after the surgery, the doctor said there's probably a 50-50 chance that the pregnancy is going to stay due to the trauma, your hormone levels right now. And again, I didn't know how that sat with me because I wasn't sure I wanted to be pregnant, but I definitely didn't want to lose a child. It was confusing. It was dark. There was a lot of anxiety in the days that were surrounding that. But a few weeks later, as I'm able to process the trauma and ask Jesus about this, like, I'm not ready to be a mom. Jesus showed up in prayer and showed me where he was the moment that we found out that we were pregnant with my daughter. And he took me back to that room where I was getting the ultrasound done and the doctor bursting in to deliver the news. And I see Jesus right next to my side with his hand on my abdomen and his head thrown back in laughter, joy. Like, upon hearing the news that I was going to have a child, his reaction was not fear. It was not chaos. There was none of that. It was only joy. He was only happy about this. And that changed our story. Like, okay, we're pregnant. Jesus is in it. He's not only in it, but he is so happy about this news. And the pregnancy stuck. I carried Ella, my now 13-year-old, to term, and she is one of the most amazing, delightful human beings on the face of this planet.
One of the most confident 13-year-old girls,
Yes.
confident enough to be filmed. She's in your story.
Yeah, she's
in the
my
captivating
story.
experience in the new series. There's Ella.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a huge, huge moment. It changed our entire outlook on what had happened and what was happening.
Okay, so I'm sitting in the seat of the listeners, and I know some are asking, how did that come? Did you ask? Were you processing with a counselor? Like what? Jesus was able to take you back and show you something.
Yes.
That changed everything.
Yes.
How did he get you there?
Yeah, it was, interestingly, there was no fanfare. I have done a lot of counseling, but I was not in counseling at this point. It was simply asking while praying
Okay.
and saying, God, where were you in that? We were still in kind of the trauma of it, but where are you? What are your thoughts on this particular story?
Yeah.
Oh, here I am. Let me show you.
Wow.
I'm here laughing with delight at the
Mm.
news.
Mm. Mm. I think everybody asks that question,
Mm-hmm.
right? We all have that, Sue, all those years of Jesus, where are you?
Mhm.
You're not answering my prayers. We all have that. But there's this other wonderful thing you're describing, Jamie, is the availability of Jesus
Mm-hmm.
to answer
Mm.
Right.
that, or if not answer it, because there were a lot of years
right.
you didn't feel
Right.
answered,
Right.
at least to meet you there,
Mm.
meet
Right.
us there, right?
Mhm.
In some very significant way,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah. John, can I share a story related to that?
Yes.
That just triggers. So this would have been last summer. So we're in the middle of COVID. I think for most people, a pretty crappy year
Mhm.
on a lot of levels.
Universally, yeah,
And
pretty much.
I was on a bike ride and had ridden way up on Rampart Range Road, and I'd taken my journal with me. And I was sitting down journaling, and I was kind of just venting to God in my journal about just the year, and literally I have in the front of my journal sort of goals and dreams for the year and words, and I was looking through it, and I was not all the stuff I was excited about for last year pretty much got canceled, right?
Yeah.
Trips, vacations, all these
Yep.
things. And here we are in summer, stuck, can't go anywhere. And so I'm sitting there venting, and I'm God, do you have anything you want to say about this? And he's like, go back and look at your words for the year. And I go back and look at the word, because I keep it in the front of my journal. I go back and look at it, and one of them was more than you can think or ask, and the other one was an expansion of boundaries. And I was like, exactly. That is my point, God. This whole thing, this whole year, none of that's happening. And I literally kind of wrote that in my journal. The next day, I am in the park in our neighborhood, and I bump into a friend of mine that I'm on a board with. And he comments to me, hey, John, you've been interested in the house that we're next to. I think the owners might sell it. And long story short, that opened up what was this incredibly fast journey of God, literally putting in our lap the specific home we have wanted for years. And I didn't realize it until I was going back through my journal months later that it was the day before that I had been venting to God. And God had said, literally, just go look at my words, more than you can think or ask, an expansion of boundaries. And so I think there are times when God says things to us in kindness that in the moment we just dismiss as, well, that can't be God because it doesn't measure up. And so for me,
doesn't fit.
a journal of my conversations with God has just been a really, really helpful tool, because it gives this perspective of time
Yeah.
that is so hard for us in the moment, because we're so in the immediacy of things. And God, he just has a longer time horizon than we do.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, because I think the temptation too is to think oh my gosh, Sue finally has met somebody. John gets his dream house, but it isn't always that way.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a
Right?
huge story
Yes,
behind it.
exactly. And
Yeah.
I can't wait till the day all of our story is revealed of
Mhm.
Yeah.
that thing that you've prayed for, you've longed for, you've
Yes.
desired. God used all of that to
Mhm.
prepare me for this part of my story.
Yes.
It's not to say that we always get the happy ending necessarily. A lot of times we don't, right?
Right.
But
Well, like what you were saying, your mom is still needing care and all of the heartache, your aging dog and all that. It's still real.
Yeah.
All that's still
All of
part.
that is still hard and
Yes.
real.
That's good. I love Jesus.
Yeah.
I love Jesus. I just love his way with us. And, the venting. I have been on that mountain venting to God.
Yeah.
Like I was just smiling as you were telling the story, going, yep, I know that physical place and I know that emotional place of Jesus. Where are you?
Yeah.
Come on.
Right.
And then keeping the heart open enough that he can answer.
Yep.
In the moment, perhaps, in a dream, a couple weeks later through a phone call from a friend, might be a staff email, but he will come.
Yeah.
He will come.
Okay, so I've got just a light, fun story of God coming for my wife in a really simple way. My wife, Amy, is awesome, and she has exercise-induced asthma, which is a real bummer in our family because we're like the outdoor adventure.
Let's go play.
Go do fun stuff. And so for her, like she loves hiking and all that stuff, but it's really challenging for her because of her lungs. And so one of the things that we have been looking forward to as a family, especially this summer, is taking bike rides together. And so I decided that something that would help Amy is a pedal assist bike. Just something that gave a little extra help, so that she could keep up with us.
You mean like an e-bike?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I decided that something that really would help Amy is like one of these newfangled electric bicycles that give you extra power when you're pedaling. And so I took Amy to this bike store down the street from us, and she tried one of these big beach cruisers, which is what she thought she liked. And it was kind of big and heavy, and she felt kind of out of control, and she didn't like it. And the guy at the store was like, why don't you try this other smaller bike we have? And it was kind of like fat, knobby tires, and it was cute, and she wouldn't try it. And so I'm like, well, I'll give it a try. And so I tried it, and I was like, this is super fun. I was like, Amy, you should really try this. And so she did, and she loved it. And long story short, she now has a bright orange fat tire pedal assist mountain bike. And she loves that thing. I mean, almost every day she says to the rest of us, hey, do you guys want to go for a bike ride? And it's just so much joy and so much fun. And it's been a gift to Amy and to her heart, and a gift to me, and a gift to the kids. And it's just got Jesus all over it, because we were like this close, and I'm holding my fingers about a centimeter apart, this close to walking out of that store with her saying, I can't use one of these bikes. But there was just something of Jesus prompting of like, no, give it a try. And so, it's just fun.
Yes.
And I'm sure we're going to head out for a bike ride this evening.
Yeah.
I love that.
I love that. Soccer games and bicycles and ER trauma and wedding plans. And Jesus is in it all. Parenting and fears and all of it. And friends, we're sharing these stories with the hope of opening your hearts and your imagination and your possibilities to all kinds of new ways of experiencing Jesus. And one of the things I'm aware of is we all hold on to the trump card, the yeah, but card. It's like, yeah, but, and then we name what it is. And so for years, it would have been being single. It's like, yeah, no, I have wonderful friends. He's come for me in so many ways, but.
Exactly.
And gang, what I really want to encourage you is let go of that yeah, but card. So maybe it isn't right now the relationship. Maybe it isn't your child coming back to Christ. Like that one thing, don't let that be the thing that stops all of the other
Right.
Yes.
potential encounters with Jesus, words of love, affection, support, encouragement, joyful things like bicycles that like, you know how we do that? Like we say, it's got to be this one thing. This is the answer to prayer I'm asking for. Otherwise, I'm not talking to you, God. And I want to encourage folks, like lay that card down for a while and let Jesus come in other places in your life to enjoy him again and to let that, oh my goodness, just let it catch your heart and let it open up hundreds of encounters that are waiting to happen with you in Jesus.
Yes.
So, Father, that's what we pray for. We're praying for it for ourselves. We're praying for it for our friends. And I'm going to pray in the first person now. Jesus, okay, I want more of you. I want to hear you. I want to see you. I invite you in. I surrender my trump cards of insisting of the places that you get to show up. And I ask you for an open heart and for the presence of God, the power of the Holy Spirit with me to show me how you're coming. I pray for encounters with you this week. In Jesus' name, we all pray. Amen?
Amen.
Amen.